So again, as you've heard throughout the course of today, we talked a lot about the industry and where things are going in terms of applying AI to CX. And we went very deep into SupportLogic and was really encouraged by the engagement and the depth of questions and the interest in going deep. Now, the third leg of that is we're going to talk with transformative leaders who are really driving change in organizations. And as you all know from your own businesses, technology is important. It's one big part of it, but people and process are the other two legs of that stool. And we're going to go deep across different areas of that and how leading companies and these two leaders are driving the changes in their organizations. And we'll have a series of questions that I'll walk through, and then we'll leave time at the end for Q&A as well. So I want to do quick introductions, and I'll let them go into more depth in their intros. But first of all, we have Erika Semtei from Braze, and we have Declan Fanning from Coupa. And they're both SupportLogic customers, so we're going to talk about their learning from SupportLogic, but we're also going to broaden the conversation and talk about the industry and the transformation within their organizations. So welcome both. Thank you for being here. Erika, do you want to provide a brief intro?
Sure.
And we'd love to hear about your company as well. Braze is doing some very innovative things.
Definitely. Thanks, Joe. Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name's Erika Semtei. As Joe mentioned, I work for Braze, where I'm the Vice President of Customer Support. So for those who are not familiar, Braze is a customer engagement platform. So we help companies engage with their users through a lot of different messaging channels like email, SMS, WhatsApp, in-app messages, and push notifications. So we're all about helping companies send the right message at the right time. And some of our customers are companies like The Guardian, Canva, and Delivery Hero, which some of you might be familiar with. And yeah, so we have over 2,000 customers globally, so we work with customers across many industries. And yeah, that's just a bit about Braze.
Thanks, Erika. Declan?
Hi, yeah, I'm Declan Fanning, and I work with Coupa. So Coupa is a business spend management system in the cloud. And what we do is we streamline, automate, and optimize business processes, in particular around procurement, invoice processing, and expense management processing. So Coupa is really all about creating value for our customers, looking to save and provide insights to our customers about making the best informed decisions within their business spend management environment to make those savings. We're an AI company. We develop a lot of AI applications within our software, which I'll talk about later. And we have about 3,000, in excess of 3,000 customers. Just to name a few: BMW, Microsoft, Barclays here in the UK, and Uber. And I met a number of customers here as well today.
We are customers.
You're a customer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And both of you in your companies are really doing innovative things within the product, which is fantastic. And we'll come back to some of those. But let's talk about the use of AI within the CX organization and how you're using it to transform. Maybe start with talking about the attitudes, as we've talked about here today. There's a lot of hype. There's a lot of skepticism. But you are examples of two leaders and two companies that are doing some really innovative things. So what's your approach? Why don't we start with you, Declan?
Yeah, when we talk about AI, for us, AI is really about a co-pilot, an assistant that's able to give you insights to make informed decisions. So how we've worked with SupportLogic when we talk about the support experience, we've been working with the AI now for about 3 years. The first module we rolled out was escalation management. So within rolling that out, we were able to create an environment where we were able to predict cases that were going to escalate. So we approached that as a priority for us initially. And what we've seen by taking that stance, by taking that action, we've reduced our escalations within our use cases, within our cases. We've also then took the approach around sentiment. What we've found with using sentiment and signals is we've created a more proactive environment. In particular, we've used the alerts and the triggers. So we had a particular focus on certain sentiments. And those sentiments were able to help us to create a more proactive environment within those alerts to the teams and individuals that were best placed to take the appropriate action. We have in excess of 1,700 alerts now. In saying that, that sounds like a lot. But what we did was we created a number of team alerts, the priority alerts for us as an organization. And what we did then was we allowed the teams and individuals to set up their own alerts. So those key ones that we built were all around our key KPIs. But as we've moved forward with the application, as I said, we've been using it 3 years, we've been creating more alerts within the system, as have we've allowed. Now you can restrict individuals from doing it, but we've allowed individuals to set up personal alerts. So through that, we've become very much a very more proactive environment. The other key aspect of our implementation of the application was around intelligent case assignment. Now, with intelligent case assignment, we've been able to assign cases to the best placed agent engineer to deal with that case real time. In relation to that, the key KPI that we've seen in association with the intelligent case assignment is time to resolution. And we've seen a big improvement there. So it's been a big win for us there. Now what we've done is actually we've built a lot of conditions there based on how we do our business in relation to alignment of our business processes. So there was a lot of talk here earlier on about switching on the AI agent, managing cases within the intelligent case assignment. We kept it quite flexible. So we have certain conditions where we use the AI, but we have also some specific conditions where we specify the routing based off of the condition. For example, an account, a level of severity, and so on and so forth. So we've kept it quite a flexible model there. But in turn, as I said, we've seen a big reduction in time to resolution. And for us as an organization, the most important KPI when we talk about support was time to resolution. So that was a big win for us.
Fantastic. And we'll come back more to the use cases and the decision around what to prioritize first, because I'm sure that's on minds of folks here. But thanks, Declan. Erika, let's talk about the approach.
Yeah, so I definitely agree that there is a lot of hype out there. I was just chatting with other people here, and we agreed that it seems every single day there's a new software out there that is promising to solve all of your team's problems. So I think it's important to approach CX use cases in a thoughtful way. We have a similar story to Declan's, where we decided to prioritize use cases that are internal before we do anything that is customer facing. So what we have been doing and how we've been leveraging SupportLogic quite successfully has been for escalation prevention and case sentiment analysis. So we get about 10,000 cases per quarter, and beforehand we were quite blind to where there was a sentiment issue. Now we are able to be a lot more proactive, and our leadership team can jump in to prevent the issue from escalating. So we have seen, in terms of how we're measuring the value, we've seen an improvement in customer satisfaction scores and a reduction in the number of escalations, which has been really great.
That's fantastic. Let's talk about the prioritization process for the use cases. We showed that slide earlier of the 40 use cases potentially, and I'm sure there's many more than that. But how have you and your organizations decided? You've implemented with very specific purpose and also gotten some great results. How did you decide to focus on those areas? Maybe we'll start with you again, Erika.
Yeah, definitely. As I just mentioned, we wanted to make sure that we started with internal use cases that we would consider lower risk, but would still be super valuable for our team. So that's why having things like case sentiment analysis and escalation prevention have been so great, because it's not something that is customer facing, yet it allows us to work in a much more efficient way. The next thing that we want to prioritize is improving our knowledge base, because we recognize that in order to achieve really good self-serve outcomes in the future, we need to make sure that our knowledge base is in a really good state. So again, what we've decided to do is focusing on internal use cases, improving the quality of the data that we have before we do anything that is customer facing. And that's worked really well for us.
Sounds like good advice.
Yeah, so when we started the process, we set out clear goals, what we wanted initially from the deployment. So the first one we took on, as I said earlier, was the escalation management. So that in turn uses sentiment and signals as well as part of the process. So that was it. We were able to introduce the actual application beyond escalation management when we were using that component first. And then within that, we went more deeply into the sentiment analysis. Particularly focused on negative sentiments initially and churn risk. So those were two key signals that we were working on initially within our deployment of the application. Now, over time, we're becoming more knowledgeable about our data set because, as I said, it's about providing insights to how you're operating, what the data is telling us. So what SupportLogic is doing is it's telling us, it's giving us insights to make these decisions. And based on that, the next use case we're going to do is we're going to start looking at our knowledge base. And one of the key signals around knowledge base is confusion. So we've seen a correlation around confusion, aligning with a lack of knowledge articles within those cases. So that's a topic we're going to take on in the near future. Another one we're going to take on when we talk about signals is we're seeing an alignment with the signal frustration. So what we're seeing there is an alignment with CSAT. So what we're seeing here is if we address those signals based on the data set, we're getting better CSAT scores. So when we talk about how we approached it by looking at specific signals and then growing that by growing our data set and our knowledge within the application. But I would suggest you take a feature or module at a time. I would certainly not take a big bang approach. The next feature we looked at and how we rolled it out was quality assurance. Now, what we've deployed is the quality assurance recommendation modules. What happens in the application is it recommends to us as a team cases that we need to review. So within that, we've built our own template, which Krishna mentioned earlier. You can build your own templates. We have. So the team go in and manually then give a QA score to the case itself. But going forward, what we think is we're going to start using the Elevate SX, which will give us that scale then of 100% cases.
That's what Max was showing.
Exactly. So that's something future. But what I'm saying is we're growing by making these steps with module at a time. So yeah, that's how we approached it.
Pragmatic approach.
Those goals. So as I said, our next goals is going to be QA, confusion around knowledge, and then CSAT around frustration.
Just as a quick follow-up, Declan, you talked about the frustration and the confusion signals and the correlation. Was that something you had a hypothesis about going in, or was it something that was learned, somewhat surprising maybe, that came from the sentiment analysis?
It's something that we worked closely with SupportLogic, who worked with us, our CVM. So they were working with us within our signals about where we could, with the insights, make improvements and optimize how we work it. So it was really led in some ways by our engagement with the SupportLogic team to help us understand what these signals mean for our organization. So with that knowledge and expertise, looking at our data set, we could see the correlation. So it made sense. And again, that comes back to what I said about getting those insights to make those informed business decisions. So it was a partnership with SupportLogic, helping us to understand these signals better.
Makes sense, and thank you for sharing that. Erika, you brought up the role of data, especially getting ready for the implementation. Let's roll up our sleeves and get a little gritty. What were some of the challenges in learning, and what did you ultimately have to do to prepare for an implementation with the role of the data?
Yeah, definitely. So I think that good quality data is the backbone of any successful AI strategy. So there's this idea of garbage in, garbage out, where I think it's really important to ensure that what data you're going to use to train the model is accurate, consistent, and standardized in order to get the best possible results. So this is why in our experience, we decided to focus on also leveraging AI, but leveraging AI to improve the quality of our data first. And by data, I mean our knowledge base. So we want to make sure that the two use cases that we have are, one, leveraging AI to ensure that we don't have duplication, that our content is standardized, and that it is accurate and complete. And then the second use case is ensuring that our team is able to create net new knowledge articles at a speed that they simply were unable to before, and also following the same level of standardization and accuracy. So for us, we really feel like focusing on improving our knowledge base is going to set us up for success for any self-serve outcomes for our customers in the future. So we've decided to take that kind of responsible approach, if you will.
It also speaks a little to the use case prioritization of focusing on the internal set first before the self-serve
Exactly.
on the customer side. Yeah, Declan, anything to add?
So
there?
yeah, the data is very important in the world of AI. So you need to have a comprehensive and clear data set in order to have a good AI model. Now, the better your data, the better the insight you're going to get. The better the insight, the more informed you're going to be about what business decision you need to take. So it's very important. Now, we're a Salesforce house, so we had all our data in when it comes to support and the support experience in Salesforce. So we had all the CVM data. We built custom objects that would capture CVM inputs. We had SAM data, support account managers, in custom objects that captured their input. And of course, we had your standard and custom fields around support within Salesforce. So we had from the get-go, we had a pretty good data set that was very complete. So we were quite fortunate there. But we've been working to that point for a number of years to get our data into a clear and concise model. So with that, what we see is we're getting good insights in order to make those informed decisions. And in turn, what we're seeing is our key KPIs. So one of the things when we start working SupportLogic is, do we have new KPIs? Are we going to build KPIs around sentiment? Are we going to build KPIs around signals and so on and so forth? To answer that question, no, we didn't. We kept to the core KPIs you have in support. But what we've seen is within those KPIs, improvements around a reduction in escalations. We've seen improvements around time to resolution. We've seen improvements around our CSAT and so on. So what we're doing is we're evolving over time, and within those KPIs, we're strategically picking areas where we want to improve. And the next area we're going to focus on, as I said, is going to be around CSAT.
Thank you, Declan. A big question, I think, for folks in the room is around build versus buy. We talked a little bit about it earlier. Many companies are taking different paths, but the factors to consider are important, and I think people certainly hear our perspective, but I think they'd really like to hear your perspective. How did you address it, Erika, at Braze, about the right path to take?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that for CX use cases, I, from the beginning, always knew that we should buy over build. We've had experiences in the past where we create something internally and it's great because you have a lot of flexibility, but then 3-6 months down the line, when you need to make a change or you need to iterate on the tool, then the teams that were originally helping they have new priorities now, and then you have to almost create a business case from the start. So you lose a lot of agility, and then it just becomes increasingly complex over time. So I think by partnering with a specialized vendor, that none of that happens, and you can ensure that you have access to kind of the top-notch functionality for that particular use case, as well as robust support and a network of companies that are trying to solve the same issue that you're trying to solve. One thing that I would also recommend, and this is something that particularly my executive team wanted to be just wary of, is to try to avoid really long contracts in the beginning, because since this is a space that is changing so quickly, you don't want to find yourself a year down the line having different priorities and having to pivot, but then you're locked into a contract that maybe is not the best solution for you anymore. So this is the one thing that I can give as a piece of advice that my executive team brought up. But I think from the beginning, we were really confident that we wanted to buy because of those reasons.
Yeah, and good advice there. Declan?
Yeah, so when we started the process, we did a thorough analysis. We looked at what we had in-house and our capability. We also looked at different vendors. We looked at the cost, and we looked at how these solutions would align with our business processes. And ultimately, at the end of the day, for us, the decision came down to scale. So your AI model is going to grow. So scalability is very important. Customization, we wanted a solution with low customization. And we wanted a solution with low maintenance. So with that, and those three key pillars, we decided the best solution for us, when we talk about support experience, was to go externally and to work with SupportLogic.
Either of you or your companies considered a hybrid approach? We're hearing that more and more, right? For the last decade or so, it's been build or buy. As we talked about it, with the opportunity for a platform, a CX PaaS layer that can support both paths. How do you guys think about that?
Yeah, so we have, for some specific use cases, where this is an ongoing conversation that we're having, and one of our longer term goals after we improve our knowledge base, as I explained before, is to have an in-product virtual assistant that can help our customers self-serve for more simple questions. So we're actively having conversations on for that particular use case on whether we should build, buy, or have some kind of hybrid. What we're probably going to do is buy and ensure that we get the support use cases down really effectively. And then where there's things that perhaps our product team wants to include that are a bit more proactive, or notifications based on how you're using the dashboard and things like that, perhaps that's going to be more of a solution that is built and integrated into the kind of existing in-product virtual assistant. So we are thinking about a combination for that particular use case, but I think it's still definitely important that for the support use cases specifically, that I feel like buying is a better choice.
Anything to add?
Yeah, so we've discussed this internally, and I think into the future, we're probably going to go with more a hybrid model. But at this moment in time, when we started this journey, we decided to outsource to SupportLogic because we felt it was the best-in-class solution and certainly aligned with our business processes. But I think going forward, I think it's going to be somewhat of a hybrid model. We're an AI company, so as such, it'll be easy for us to integrate with SupportLogic with a much larger data set. So what that means is, I think going forward, you're going to see a lot more integration between these AI models, and I think we'll be no different. But what I do think what's going to become very important when you have a hybrid model is how we communicate with the AI is going to become very important. So that's something we're also discussing, is how we're going to align ourselves to that requirement going forward about how we communicate with all these AI models. So it's something we're talking to our training team and onboarding team. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's something we've discussed, and I probably think that's where we're going to go.
Makes sense, and we certainly concur at SupportLogic, and that's why we've been investing in building the CX PaaS, because of that interoperability, integration, scalability, mix of models, all these things that are going to be requirements moving forward. We believe this is where the industry is going, and SupportLogic is there to support it. So we appreciate that. I'm sure another question that people here really want to understand is the implementation. What was it like? Tell us, don't be shy. What was really good? What was challenging? What did you guys learn through that process? Maybe Declan, if you want to start.
I guess the most important thing I learned, taking the technology aside, and the support we got from SupportLogic was excellent. The technology is very good. But the support we got, and the support we got from the team, Christian and the team, Max and our CVM, Jana, was excellent. I learned a lot too as well. As a support organization, the engagement of your CVM and how to work within those channels. The other thing we learned from an implementation point of view was it's very important that your tools and your platforms align with the AI model. So through our analysis, we found that was certainly the case for our good selves based on the tools we used. So you talked about a hybrid model. So into the future, we know we have that capability. So that's very important. So I would say, first of all, look at the tools on your platform and make sure you can integrate with the AI. Secondly, I would say when it comes to the implementation of the AI, some of the challenges we had was internal more so than external. So you need to have a very good communication plan. You need to have a very good communication plan internally to communicate to the stakeholders the value of AI and what it's going to bring. So you also, as part of that, have to have a very clear change control plan when you start introducing the different features into your business processes, the AI. And as I said, we did it in a phased approach. Yeah, so I would say have a clear communication plan and change control plan. The other thing I would say from the process is the integration was seamless. So how it worked was SupportLogic basically provided us with a playbook. We handed it over to our Salesforce admin, and it was a very quick implementation. They were able to create the integration very quickly for not just the standard fields, but also for the custom fields, because we had quite a few custom fields. But that was a seamless process, which isn't always the case with every third party you engage with.
Any surprises, Declan, things that you wish you knew at the beginning of the process?
It's a good question. I would probably say if there was anything, we built up a good knowledge quickly in the team. So when we were doing training, we should have been probably a little bit more structured in how we rolled out the training. So what I mean by that was we were probably very dependent initially on SupportLogic and their expertise to help us to onboard and train people, where I think we could have been probably a little bit better prepared internally to take that challenge on. When we did take that challenge on, as we went forward in the process, we took ownership there and we were able to streamline that process within our own internal operations. But I wouldn't underestimate what's involved from the training, particularly at a user level. It's a technical solution.
Right.
You need materials and support around that.
That's good advice. Erika, how about you? How was your experience?
Yeah, so we had a very similar experience to Declan. The integration was very seamless, and some of our biggest learnings are also more so internally than external. So I think a really key point is ensuring that the stakeholders that you need for the integration, internal stakeholders, so Salesforce admins or anyone else that you need to be ready on day one to get everything integrated, they should be aware and they should have this already planned in kind of their process and their backlogs so that you know that once you're ready to integrate, everyone internally is also ready to go. The other lesson, and I think is similar to what you were mentioning as well, Declan, is that AI is not a magic solution. It's not like you integrate and then happy days and all of your problems are resolved. There's definitely a lot of work that you need to put into change management, ensuring that your key users of the tool are onboarded and that they are leveraging the tool to the best of its ability so that you really get the best results. It is a bit of a change in the day-to-day, and it's a brand new tool that you're expecting your leaders to be using on a daily basis. So it takes time and consistency to ensure that it just becomes part of the DNA and business as usual. But I would say as well that our experience working with the SupportLogic team was incredible. They got back to us immediately, all of the trainings and onboarding material, they're extremely good and useful. So with the help from the team, we were able to get up to speed pretty quickly.
Thank you both for sharing those experiences, broadening the aperture a little bit on the training. Curious to get your thoughts. AI presents so much opportunity, but I think holistically we believe there's new skills that need to be focused on. Are you thinking about how you train? You mentioned training specifically for SupportLogic, but looking more broadly, are you thinking about how you train your teams differently and also how you hire differently for AI skills? Want to start, Erika?
Yeah, so our company, we also, within our software, we also have a lot of AI solutions that our customers can leverage. So I think we recognize how important it is for our customer experience team members to be able to speak intelligently about AI and understand how our customers get the most value out of the AI solutions that we provide. So we are going through a series of trainings where our learning and development team has created some AI fundamentals trainings and trainings on the AI functionality that we have within our product. So I think that within support specifically, we want to make sure that our team completes the trainings that the company is creating for us, which is great because it ensures that everyone has some base level of understanding of AI fundamentals. And then we also want to continuously train our team on how to best utilize the tools that we're giving to them, because ultimately we want their experience to be better. I think it's really important for organizations to be clear with their teams that AI is not here to replace your job. It is something that is meant to be leveraged, that it makes our lives easier and it makes us more productive, and it's here to augment the work that we do. So we're really focusing on ensuring that information cascades down as well, so that the team feels quite thrilled and excited to leverage these tools to become more efficient workers. In terms of hiring, it's interesting because we're right now, during our hiring process, there is a step where we have a take-home test. And we're finding that more often than not, these take-home tests you could really answer using ChatGPT. So we are in the process of thinking like, okay, maybe this is not really going to be a good way to gauge someone's writing skills or analytical skills anymore. And we're having discussions on, okay, perhaps it's time to move more so to a virtual, in-person question, like Q&A session with the candidate. So yeah, it's interesting because there's things like that where you might not be able to tell anymore if it's their work or if they just leverage an AI tool.
How about thoughts on training or hiring around the ability to prompt? Is that becoming a focus or is that on your radar?
Yeah, it is on our radar. I think at this time, we want to ensure that our documentation and how our team can search for information, like we're trying to leverage AI to bring all of our knowledge sources together, because we have our documentation, we have a knowledge base in Salesforce, we have Confluence, we have Slack, we have knowledge sitting everywhere, and we first want to unify the search so that our team can find information faster. But I think quick follow is going to be how to prompt to get the best possible answer.
Yeah, I like your thoughts on that. Declan?
Yeah, so I think the world of AI is changing how we operate as a support organization. So we're certainly evolving. Something that we've focused on when we talk about how we're changing as an organization around training within support org, we feel that a requirement to work with the AI going forward is data analysts. So what we've started to do in-house, we've started to build a lot of training programs and onboarding in relation to working with the data, with the insights the data is giving you. So we feel going forward, a data analyst and data analyst roles are going to be very important with AI. In relation to communication with the AI, we're also investing and looking at trainings in that particular area. In particular, when you talk about these AI models, when they start becoming integrated, I think it's going to be very important in how we communicate with the AI. So it's certainly something we're looking at, and it's certainly something we're building out.
Yeah, great. Almost at time. I want to open it up for a few questions from the audience, but last thoughts, future of AI in CX. What are you most excited about? Declan?
We certainly, as an operation, we're going to continue to optimize our support processes and environment by working more within the AI models. So that's certainly what we're going to do. With that, in the short term, what we're looking at and focusing on is the Elevate SX. So we're looking to go more into the 100% QA environment. We feel that's going to be a very good representative, true voice of the customer. So that's something we're excited about rolling out in the coming weeks and months. The next part of our journey, as I mentioned earlier, is going more in depth into the signals. So I mentioned about how we're going to work closely with our goal of improving our CSAT, with a particular focus around those signals related to that. So we're excited about the future, where it's going to bring us, and all the opportunities. And as I said, what we're seeing is improvements across all our key KPIs. We want that to continue, and for us, that's the key baseline.
Fantastic. Thank you, Declan. Erika?
Yeah, so for us, as I've been mentioning throughout the panel, the primary focus right now is to make sure that our knowledge base is in a really good state and that we can continuously add good content that's standardized to our knowledge base. After that, what I'm most excited about is the fact that we want to bring an in-product virtual agent into the mix. So we recognize that there's some simpler cases that might be how-to questions or simply issues that don't require a ton of technical knowledge that we really think AI would be great for and will allow our customers to self-serve. So we're excited about that because it will allow our customers to get answers right in the product where they are so they don't have to break their workflow and go somewhere else. It will leverage AI to find the best solution or the best answer for them. And then if they are unable to get their question answered, then they can seamlessly talk to one of our support agents. And we're excited about this as well, because then that just means that our support agents will be able to continue to focus on the highly technical work that requires soft skills, it requires analytical skills, and it requires access to our troubleshooting tools, which of course is not something that AI is going to be able to replace. So it removes those simple cases from our team, and it allows them to do their best work, which is the highly technical work. And it also improves the customer experience. So we're really excited about that. We're trying to be quite conscious about the fact that we're not going to be able to completely remove the number of cases that we get or to get a self-serve rate of 80%. I think we're being quite conscious of the fact that we'll focus on the simple issues first, and even that is a huge win for our team. But yeah, it's a space that's moving very quickly, and I think that as support leaders, it is important to leverage the tools that are available.
Well said. Let's open it up to the audience. Any questions? Max, do you want to hand the mic?
Yeah. Quick question just around user engagement. Have you any tips on how to encourage user engagement internally? And also, do you have any, for example, acknowledgement targets as well for your support leaders?
So when we came to user engagement initially, the approach we took was we had a number of champions within our organization that were going to get involved in the rollout and deployment of the application. We also had a program manager who oversaw the deployment of the application, and that was Dinah, who's here in the room. But within that, what was key within that engagement was we were getting reports within the infrastructure and insight to who was logging into the application, how often they were logging into the application, and what were they using within the application. So we had the insight to see what the engagement was. So we were in a very good place from the start. So what we were able to do was reach out to people that needed more assistance and support within the process. And we knew this through the insight in the data set. So we were able to work with them closely to make sure they were onboarded and had the knowledge in order to make this project a success. And thankfully it worked. But we did have numerous trainings in order to achieve that. And yeah, that's what I would recommend.
Thank you, Declan and Erika. Appreciate it. We spoke before, but I have a similar question. We have this use case of this super talented subject matter expert having his cases all in order all the time. And I've been thinking about them, right? So they're going to get SupportLogic, but they might just go in the morning 1 minute and say, everything is okay. So it's not all of them, of course. We have a lot of use cases for people, as you say, that need help and that are going to use it more. But we also have these super champions that are very good. And I've been thinking about them, like how I'm going to, if I can use the word, how I'm going to exploit them more. Like they are very good, not with assist assigned yet, but how can I convince them, okay, you got all in order, but what else you want to do now if you have SupportLogic? Have you considered that specific use case? Any tools?
I'm happy to take that
Thank
one.
you.
So yeah, something that we have found really exciting is that we not only have our leaders leveraging SupportLogic and the console every day to see the sentiment alerts and the low attention alerts, but we have our most tenured team members. So our most tenured team members are exactly what you just mentioned, right? They have subject matter expertise, they keep their backlog in a super clean state. And what we are giving them is we're empowering them to use SupportLogic almost as if they were leaders or managers, and we're giving them the quote-unquote power to go in and find cases that need attention and then initiate a case swarm or bring the right subject matter experts. So it's called in the industry a case swarm, where you find an issue and you proactively jump in and you help the case owner get the issue resolved. And we have found incredible results by doing that, because not only we are empowering our best people, which sometimes eventually they can get a bit bored, or they might find that they want a bit more responsibility. So we're empowering them and giving them more responsibility and allowing them to do this type of work and leverage SupportLogic every single day. But we are also, through the process of them finding these cases and proactively initiating a swarm and reaching out to the case owner, we're also ensuring that their really good skills and their subject matter expertise gets shared across the team organically over time. Because they might work with someone today where there was a low attention score, tomorrow it might be someone else, and every time that they're having these interactions, they're sharing a bit of their knowledge and a bit of what makes them really great. So this has been also something that has helped the team buy into the idea of just why this tool is so helpful for our team, because these are individual contributors, right? But they're using the tool every single day. So that helps champion this change management across the rest of the individual contributors if they see that a peer is leveraging the tool to improve the results for the global team. So yeah, we found a lot of success doing this.
Yeah, what I would add to that is we're using intelligent case assignment. So given your question, intelligent case assignment can help you there in that regard. You may have top performers who want to deal with certain types of cases for certain types of components, with certain customers at certain severity. You can configure intelligent case assignment to work in that way. So we've found that it's very flexible, that allows you to cater for the assignment of cases for those that want to champion different conditions, constraints you want to put into the system. So that's how we manage that. But you also have to have a balance as well. You also have to balance that. You need to also upskill people that need to be upskilled within the process, particularly around intelligent case assignment. So you have to consider that as well. But what we find is within the insights, we know when people are dealing with, let's say, SEV4 cases and they have so much experience, we can see through the sentiment that these people are performing well. So within those insights, then we can configure over time, and we've been doing this because it's a constant ebb and flow of changes, that we can see for those new hires that are now upskilled, that we can start giving them more complex cases, more challenging customers, and so on. The point I'm making is we have the knowledge now, the insight to make those informed decisions. But we also have that insight to keep those top performers happy, dealing with the accounts they want to deal with, at the severity they want to deal with the components they want to deal with. So it's very flexible in that regard. So for us, that's been a winner.
I want to ask a simple and probably strange and probably a stupid question, but it's knocking in my head and I have to ask it. When it comes to customer service, you speak a lot about top performers. What kind of skills are the ones that AI cannot replace? And what is it exactly? Is it lying in the hard skills area or more in the soft skills area? What exactly are the skills that you think are not likely to be replaced by AI?
We've done a lot of research on this because we have over 4 years of data within SupportLogic. And you would think naturally by default, the key thing that associates top performers is knowledge within the product, within the platform. In actual fact, it isn't. When you look at the data set and the insight in our data set and insight, what we see when we have this knowledge now and insight, the top performers have one thing in common, and that's their soft skills. It's how they communicate with the customer. But it's not just about how they communicate, it's how often they communicate with the customer. So to that end, we've created a number of templates that has predefined structure. And in that predefined structure, it defines what you need to communicate to those customers. And within that, we clearly define the issue, what's done, what's going to be done, and when the next communication is going to be had. So the key to it all, those top performers, is communication. Clear and predefined communication on when you're next going to reach out to the customer. So that's what we find in our data set. So it's soft skills.
Have time for one more, and then we'll continue the conversation downstairs, right behind you, Max.
I have two very quick questions, if I may. Firstly, has a use case been explored for employee satisfaction and using AI to help internal growth for employees? Perhaps this is more of an HR case, but we often talk about CSAT. What about employee satisfaction and using tools like SupportLogic to understand employee satisfaction equally? And secondly, how might customers perceive value of a support license? And might that change as they increasingly realize that organizations are gaining cost efficiencies using AI models? Would that, in your opinion, change how they perceive the value of the license? Thank you.
Two really good questions. I think for the first one, we're definitely focusing on both. The employee experience is something that is extremely important for us as well. And what I was mentioning before, where we have our most tenured team members leveraging the tool, this has allowed them to have more responsibility and empowered them to make decisions that they just couldn't make before because they didn't have the data and they couldn't easily find cases that needed their input. So this has definitely helped with the experience of that group of people that we've given access to the tool. We've run a few internal surveys and the team is really excited. And again, they see it as us giving them a key to the house and having them working right alongside leadership, which I think is great. So that's been our experience. And now that we move on to something that our team has complained about so many times, and it's come up in our employee engagement survey, and it's just simply something that we know is a problem, is what I referenced to before, where all of our knowledge is sitting in disjointed places. So you can imagine that if you're trying to find information, you have to go to a ton of places, you lose a lot of time, the searchability across them might be a little bit different. So overall, it's just not a great experience when you're just trying to get the answer to the customer. So this is our next focus area, which is just bringing a unified search. And I think that's going to be that's going to have the biggest impact on the employees' kind of experience day to day. So I can let you know how that goes and how the team feels about it after we've implemented it. Now, for the second question, I think that it's a really interesting one. And I think that's why, at least in my position, we've decided to take a very step-by-step and thoughtful approach where we don't want to come up with this idea that customers are going to be able to self-serve for 80% of questions, so we're going to get rid of 50% of our support staff. Like, we don't have any plans to reduce our support staff, for example. We really see these tools as helping augment the work that our team already does. So I think that, yes, a customer would feel really frustrated if a company creates a lot of kind of barriers before they can reach a support human. And we want to make sure that we don't do that. So we want to make sure that reaching out to our team and our agents is still really easy. So if you don't even want to talk to our future in-product virtual agent, you don't have to, right? You can just go directly to support. And I think that's what's going to make a big difference. And companies that just completely remove their support staff or completely change their support model, I think are going to find that probably down the line that was maybe not the best choice. So we're being really thoughtful about it. And yeah, we believe in the skills that our team has, and going back to the last point as well, that the soft skills that they have and their ability to get the right stakeholders involved and navigate internal complexity when there's escalations and things like that, that's not something that AI is going to be able to replace, at least in the near future.
So the first question about satisfaction internally within the team working with the application. So like any change environment, change control, you're going to get some pushback. And that's only natural within the process. But I iterate again the importance there of a clear communication plan on why we're doing this. You need to have a clear change control plan. And if you can do that from the start, you're going to start getting buy-in. What I would also say is we did a similar approach. We did a number of surveys as we went through the process in order to capture people's feedback. And we got very positive feedback. And for me, one of the key signs that not only were the results telling us that, but colleagues were coming to me saying, Declan, can we do the following in SupportLogic? We talked about intelligent case assignment. Can we do the following? I have a team that operates this way, or I'd like the team to operate in this fashion. Can you support this? Because I think we'll get better results if we can do this. Because I can see in the data, this is where we're getting cases. We're getting in these hours, in this location, for this region, for this product. So we're getting a lot more detail. Again, it's all about insight. So what's happening is the buy-in is happening because people are telling us, can we do this? And we're constantly configuring and changing these conditions that we're building in the system to manage our environment. So what we're seeing now, the buy-in is certainly there because we can see it and they can see it in the KPIs. So we're all in this together. And when they can see at the end of the year our KPIs are improvement, there's a clear alignment. The second thing in relation, the second question and how we operate in relation to that, what we found is we've become a lot more strategic in how we operate as an organization. And in working with AI, we have actually grown as a support org. So more people have joined our team since we deployed SupportLogic than reduced the team. So our team is larger, it's bigger. So we're doing it in a way that's very thoughtful because we have the insight and we know where to build out those teams at a regional level as well. So hence the growth. So our team has grown.
If I may, I want to answer the two questions. They're very interesting questions, and I have a different perspective as well, talking to some of our customers. So there's employee satisfaction. There's also employee retention. And we have stats to show that both improves with a product like SupportLogic. And I'll give you a very clear example. This is MuleSoft, one of Salesforce portfolio. Initially, when they deployed us, they found out that a lot of the employees were getting abusive customers speaking to them. And these abuse was the support reps were just taking it in, They were not complaining it. And then that became very visible. They came as profanity and all that in our signal matters. So they immediately went and set a policy on how to protect their employee. Like this abusive behavior from customers should not be accepted. And they set a policy for the employees, and it really improved their employee retention numbers. Second thing is in support, employee retention is problematic for many companies. Some companies do better than the others. A lot of companies, if you're a highly complex product, there's a ramp-up period for a support needs to get really productive. And we have seen for highly complex product companies, it could be as high as 1 year to 18 months. An average tenure for these companies, for these employees, is 2 years. So by the time they're productive, they're out of the door, right? They're going to a different company. So retention is a really big problem, and because you're not getting the most productive use of those employees. So 2 areas where this gets interesting. One is with case routing, with knowledge assist, you can cut down the ramp-up period for an employee. So instead of being that 1 year period or 18 months period, you can bring it down to manageable 3 months or 6 months. You get more productive time out of it. And then career enablement, right? What keeps employees in the job is constant learning. You need to have upskilling and constant learning. So the tool can be leveraged for that. That also helps. So that's the first part. Second part on the monetization, actually covered the monetization part I covered a little bit in my book. One relevant example I want to give is IKEA. So IKEA deployed a chatbot to completely automate it. And so they were wondering, what do they do with the support reps? And the way monetized it is by converting these support reps into design architects. So a customer can call and say, it's not like my order is not delivered or anything. A paid service offering is they can design your living space because they have the knowledge of all the IKEA products and they can become a design consultant. So that's a great example of how support can truly become a revenue center. So I think going forward, the monetization strategies for support are going to change, and a differentiated service needs to be thought through for a lot of businesses. Another example I want to give, which is another customer of ours, which is a fascinating story, is a customer called Cvent. Cvent is the event management company. They do, if you are running a conference, you use Cvent app, white labeled as your conference app. So they work with marketers. So when marketers are running an event, they really don't have time to open a support ticket. So the support team essentially becomes the architect / the implementation team for them. So they work behind the scenes. They just pick up the phone and call because they don't even open a support ticket because they don't have time to understand the product. They just want the event to run smoothly. So there, the customers are willing to pay for that kind of a service. So there is always avenues to find out how we can monetize the human-centric support in a scenario. Yeah.
Thank you, Krishna. Let's pause here. Love the questions. Let's continue downstairs in the courtyard for some cheers. And I really want to thank our panelists, Erika and Declan. You offered a lot of insightful advice and guidance, and really appreciate you sharing your learning. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Joe.
Yeah. And thank you, everyone, for joining today and sticking with us. Hopefully you got a lot of insight and value from today's conversations. And again, would love to continue downstairs. So thank you very much.